Hi, Starlight here, medicine woman extraordinaire with another book review for you. So, I love good children's books, first of all. This one, my 12-year-old brought to me saying, Mom, you're going to love this book. You must read this book. And I kind of ignored it for a while. But wow, it is not only a journey about a medicine woman, which I relate to, but it's also a story that really touches my heart because I had loving, wonderful parents. However, it was kind of the generation where kids do kid things, adults do adult things. And so I somehow grew up without knowing how to do certain things like wash my clothes, cook a good meal. And I was also just psychedelic teenager, found myself on the streets, homeless, also out in forests. I had a really good time actually being houseless because I wanted to explore what else was out in this world besides this white bread colonized reality that I had been raised in. Although I must shout out to my parents again, because what I'm going to say, I don't want it to confuse any of that. My parents were really great at being compassionate humans and allowing us to fall in love with the diversity on the planet. They, for instance, fell in love with Jamaica and that culture and got to share some of their stories from going there, and they encouraged travel. Yeah. That being said, I also often tell me that the veterans raised me, or that the Rainbow Gathering raised me. And not to negate my awesome parents who did a great job also, but to show you that how much I admire these people for having taken me in and helped to show me these extra things that I had learned from. Please stop the microwave. Thank you. So, sorry, it's a live stream. I don't know how to pause it. So when I didn't have certain skills, like how to make money or feed myself, when I decided to travel the world no matter what, in any circumstances, these veterans from the Vietnam War really took me in. No matter where I was in the country, where I had landed, there was always a veteran with me. And if it wasn't from the Vietnam War, it was from the Gulf War. And my point is, this book does an amazing job of telling their story. And it's stories that I've heard from over 50 people, hundreds of men and women probably, that have PTSD or Agent Orange, which is alluded to in here, and have been then kicked to the streets, mostly partially because of the trauma that they're suffering. Well, when I read this book and got really into it, I'll just go ahead and tell you, this author was amazing. This author decided to write this book, and even the inside is pretty, like it's just really thoughtfully done. The author of this book, I had been researching PTSD and was like, we need to tell more of a story of PTSD, and somehow realized how many veterans have PTSD and suffer with PTSD. So they wrote this book, and it's amazing because it's like they have been there, not like a regular psychologist would have written a book. So it decides to have this main character here. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to go to the library and have some camera phobia at the same time, so I've forgotten her name because it's been a couple of weeks and I renewed it to do this video. There we go. Well, I don't know. This main character, they decided to make her a war vet who's a sharpshootress. And this whole story revolves around the fact that these homeless people Not only are war vets kind of dumped onto the streets after the war, I'm not going to go into the political reasons that's happening. I just want to tell you, read this book. There's so many truths into it. One of them is that a lot of our homeless and houseless are either war vets or foster children who both have a similar issue with drugs in order to disassociate from their reality, from their memories, from their guilt, from their traumas that have been imposed upon them. So they don't really care. Notice she doesn't have shoes on. This guy's got only one shoe. They don't, if you don't have enough money for food, you're not going to spend it on clothing. You're going to keep wearing what you have. And veterans have been taught to use what you have. Every item you have is a treasure. It is something that you can utilize and be grateful for. You can feel like you have abundance when you just have your backpack full. These animals are not just a coincidence. This book goes into how important service animals are for people with PTSD. So they're not only on the street with drug addictions, which often start from the drugs that the military themselves have given to the veterans, which is also alluded to in this book, but to pharmaceuticals that are supposed to be helping with their with just the symptoms, not treating the root cause of their disorders and diseases that came from their time in the military service, including experiments that were done on their bodies with poisonous chemicals and bacteria and viruses and things like that. Whew. It's heavy stuff. So this graphic novel was written about it. So it's kind of easy to read into. At first you meet this character and she is taking these pills all the time. I don't know where this is going to land, but she's taking these pills all the time. She doesn't want to associate with anybody. These camps have pulled up, which is very true about how veterans often come back and they're on the streets often. There's camps of people that sprout up that are other veterans that get together and realize that by sharing their stories together, pooling resources, networks, that they can become stronger and happier. They still struggle with their diseases, their disorders, their rejection and resentments, regrets, but they are at least together and so therefore healing. She, like many others, don't want to associate with anybody. There's so much trauma, they just need to be by themselves and they're shocked they feel, or they feel like they're really not good for other people. So it goes back into her journey, and she's not only going through her own traumas, but she's addicted to these drugs. And they talk about these guys who sell the drugs on the street. And one day she's really needing them. And she runs into this guy who's being harassed. Anyway, long story short, she has these flashbacks. So you get to see her in war. And she's a sharpshootress, but she befriends the surgeon who teaches her how to do surgery and brings her in. Just happens to be the state of affairs where she learns a lot about surgery. So she does start to help people on the street. And by helping people, she really comes out of herself and resolves a lot of the conflict within her and becomes a happier person. But she doesn't do this alone. She meets this guy who's pretty incredible and dying of something similar to Agent Orange and some viral bacterial experiment that everybody else seems to also be suffering with, or maybe mold contamination from the streets. She gets her service dog, who she absolutely denies at first. Don't want to take care of you, go away. But somehow she can't resist, luckily. And she meets this cute family. There's a mom who owns her own restaurant and her little baby who's friggin' adorable. Let's see if I can find a picture of them that you can see in the beginning of the book. Let's just show you some of the artistry. So anyway, they all help her come up in some way, even though she rejects them at first. She's definitely like a fighter. It's an action story. So in the beginning, these pictures are dark, they're murky, and they're shaky. When she needs drugs, these pictures are even shakier. So you could like feel her through the pictures. But the cool thing is that by the end, and those places where there's like help and clarity, like look at these pictures of the mom and the baby. They're glowing golden, they're clear. And she can see them clearly because their energy is so pure. So the more pure the energy is, the more pure the pictures appear in the story. The more warm and loving the scene is, the more warm the pictures are. So, and because the book becomes more warm and clear, she becomes more warm and clear by the end of the book, the pictures also become more beautiful by the end of the book. And in fact, the very last page of the book, it's not a spoiler alert, when she has her flashbacks, they're even more golden and clear and empowered. So this journey of a woman resolving her complex PTSD beyond all of the triggers, the addictions, and the problems. And she does this not by disassociating from her past and what brought her these traumas, but by really digging into what they taught her and allowing that to help uplift where she is in life instead of suppressing where she is in life. Because when we internalize trauma and it changes our entire self, the goal is not to return to who we were before. How will I ever become myself? Like where I lost myself, I need to find where she is and get back to that inner child. The truth is that we're changed. We're forever changed. And what kinds of things about us changed that were helpful for our future? What did we learn from the trauma even that's helpful for the future? That is a huge stepping stone, that knowledge, because that's a tool that helps unlocks, oh, this is who I can blossom into because of this experience. And then we can blossom into that. And it doesn't happen easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen easy for her. She has pissed a lot of people off. So they don't want to accept her help. When she decides to help, when she decides to join the community, they don't want her to join the community. It is a real hero's journey. She decides to be a hero, and because of it, really hurts a lot of people. As the hero, she gets shunned because she's doing heroic stuff. But in the end, with persistence, a little love, a little bit of friendship here and there, and one person by one person, she is able to blossom into her new self and help a lot of other people blossom into their highest potential at the same time. So you may cry. This is an excellent story. You may just be wowed. I suggest anybody who has gone through PTSD, anyone who has gone through war, any medicine woman, any of those categories or beyond, any surgeons, any, maybe not surgeons, anyone who's been to war, this story will captivate your heart, and there will be somebody who needs you to tell about it for them to have the medicine that they need in their life. This bill might be one of those magic pills. This book, might be one of those magic pills that's exactly what somebody needs in order to transform. PTSD by Guillaume Singelin. I did get it in the library, but you're going to want to buy it after you read it if you got the money. Blessed be, may your bookshelves be ever full of ignorance clearing and heart expanding wisdoms.